Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Zap Glove and its unique variant, the Paladin Toaster. These are generally endgame unarmed weapons that you're going to be finding, or honestly even into the mid-game, since the Paladin Toaster is very easy to actually get since it's right next to Helios 1. The regular Zap Glove, though, I don't ever really see until I'm getting later on into the game. Like, once I've joined the Brotherhood, sometimes you can buy them from them. I think, like, the Great Khans might sell these. There might be a couple other people that sell the Zap Glove. I'm not entirely sure who actually sells it. I'm usually not on the lookout for it, since you can get the Paladin Toaster so easy. But the regular Zap Glove requires 75 unarmed and 4 strength in order to wield. So, not the most unarmed and not the most strength, especially towards, like, the end of the game. You're going to definitely have that for an unarmed character. 4 strength is totally manageable. The regular Zap Glove does 35 damage on hit, which is okay. It's a little bit better than a Power Fist in that regard. 57 damage per second, which is perfectly fine too. This one does 35 crit damage, same as its regular damage, has a 1x crit modifier, costs 28 action points, weighs 6, has 100 item health, so the item health is kind of on the lower side. The rest of the stats are pretty standard for unarmed weapons at this point in the game. And this does have a unique effect. Since it is an electricity-based weapon, it does do extra damage towards robots and towards power armor. This is a plus 50 extra robot damage, at least in regular New Vegas. If you're in Old World Blues, it's going to be reduced damage, and the power armor damage is also reduced compared to the robot damage. This does make it so it can be an anti-robot weapon, which on its surface sounds good, but there's not a whole lot of enemies that are either wearing power armor or are robots, or situations where you're going to run into both of them pretty frequently. Robots are very limited in New Vegas overall, so the effectiveness of this weapon, at least in terms of its unique effect, isn't always the best. It also has a kind of blinding visual animation, or at least it's hard to see once you hit this because it electrocutes whatever you hit, and it kind of puts up a puff of smoke in front of you, so it's difficult to tell if you're still hitting the same enemy or if other enemies are attacking you. So that can be just a little bit of a downside for the Zap Glove in general. That probably won't affect it if you're playing in like third person, but in first person it is kind of distracting. For the major pros of the Zap Glove and its unique variants, the electricity damage is nice, the extra EMP damage towards robots and power armor is something, even though it may not be a major factor to it, and this has pretty good damage per second. Like a lot of the mid to end game unarmed weapons, the damage per second is pretty solid, even more so with perks, which we'll talk about here in a second. The only real con to the Zap Glove is that these are fairly rare. You're not just going to find these. I don't know of any enemy that actually just uses the Zap Glove regularly. Maybe the lobotomites can at certain levels, but they would be the only ones that I would think of. There's maybe some other enemies that I'm missing, but I just don't see the Zap Glove like at all. So usually I'm not just getting the regular Zap Glove. As for perks, there is no specific perk that helps out with these, but all the general unarmed and melee perks that help out with melee and unarmed apply to these weapons. Slayer to attack faster, Super Slam to knock down enemies, Purifier to kill certain things like Deathclaws and Super Mutants and Ghouls, and Piercing Strike so that you can punch through more armor are all fantastic for this build and any unarmed and melee build. For an overall rating for the Zap Glove, I'd probably put this one up into B tier. It's a decent overall unarmed weapon, but an unarmed weapon that I don't really use all that often. Let's move over to the Paladin Toaster, its unique variant. This can be found right outside Helios 1 if you just go to the left side of the building as you're coming up to it from Novak. There is a cave right there. You go inside the cave, there's a couple Super Mutants, and you can find the Paladin Toaster in there. So you can get this one actually really early on or into the mid-game of New Vegas, which is really nice. This one requires 75 unarmed and 4 strength in order to wield, same as the regular one. This one does more damage at 41, more damage per second at 67, more crit damage at 41, has a 1x crit modifier, still has 28 action point cost, still weighs 6. This one does have less item health than a regular Zap Glove though at 80, so that's kind of interesting, and it does the same amount of robot damage and power armor damage to all enemies that the regular Zap Glove would. This is just a straight upgrade to the Zap Glove overall. Yes, the item health is a little bit lower, but that probably won't matter since this one can be repaired fairly easily, especially if you're into the mid-game and you get a perk like Jury Rigging where you can fix it up with any other unarmed, then it's perfectly fine. And this is actually a pretty decent unarmed weapon. I don't think it's one of the strongest unarmed weapons overall, because I tend not to use this over something like the regular Ballistic Fist, or something like Greased Lightning. I think there is a couple other unique weapons that are a bit better in this. Pushy's another one that comes to mind, where there are just some better unarmed weapons, but this one's not bad by any means. I would put the Paladin Toaster probably up into A tier. It wouldn't be bad to carry this around just in case you want to punch robots or want to punch the Brotherhood, I guess. So would I recommend the Paladin Toaster? Sure. Paladin Toaster's pretty good. Zap Glove, okay. Probably won't go out of my way to get it, but it's decent enough. Tell me your thoughts on the Zap Glove and the Paladin Toaster down below. I will occasionally go and grab this if I'm going to run to Old World Blues because it is kind of a nice little damage buff if I want to run there right away. This one is nice, although I can do the same thing with Pushy, and I would argue Pushy's a little bit better, but sometimes I will occasionally grab the Paladin Toaster just to play around with it. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.